Hey guys, for those that are watching across the world, they're listening to us on audio. So we're starting a new format with uh with the show where felt like I'd talk to the guests for about a good 5-10 minutes, which would allow them or me to share, what I need to share and whatnot. And hey, you also get a little background conversation. Um so how's your day been going, Dr. Whitney?
Uh, it's been going well. It's been going well. I'm very excited about tonight's topic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can't tell you guys what it is yet if you haven't seen the flyers, but yeah, I don't. And guys, excuse me for the coughing. I had walking pneumonia, but I couldn't miss today. I was I missed work, but I was gonna postpone. But it's freaking February, which is Black History Month, and so I got to go out all month. Might as well. Even though I'm going out all year, why not just go big or go home in February, right? They
Mhm.
give it to us. Let's do it. you,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm
you, is it cold where you at?
no, not now, not anymore. A couple of weeks ago, it was apocalyptic when we had like 9 degrees.
Oh my God.
And yeah, the threat was of snow, and then it did actually snow, and then the cold temperatures made the snow stick. And I live in the south, so that type of weather is enough to make people panic. They run to the store, they buy everything, the shelves are empty.
Oh man, they ain't take all the bread, did
Yes, they did. They took
they?
bread, milk, eggs, the ones that were affordable at least.
Not the ones that were
Yeah,
affordable.
it was apocalyptic. That's my word for how scarce people were under the conditions of what was going on outside. It's
That's
been a
funny.
couple of weeks ago now, so everything is back to normal. Everything is back to
Okay.
normal. If the roads are clear, people are traveling, and it's not cold today. It's actually today was very beautiful. Today was very beautiful.
Well, heck, it is cold now. I don't know what's going on. It rained a little bit yesterday.
Hmm.
Um, I was not. I don't know. I was my chest and stuff could barely breathe this weekend, and so I decided to go ahead and go to our crazy convenient care Sunday morning, and this is the first time in a while a doctor was very crap. What's the word I use? Uh,
That he was present. That he was listening.
Well, I wouldn't say
Oh,
present, but they did their job. That wasn't the
oh,
word I was looking for, but they
wow.
did their job.
Okay.
Majority of the time, they when I've been going for the past few months in and out, and they just allowed me to say, "Hey, this is what I think is going on." Oh, yeah, ask that question. So, what's going on with you today? Well, um, my nipple is falling off. My ear is bleeding. Oh, okay. So what we'll do is we'll just give you some pain medicine, and so it's like 2 seconds,
Oh no.
and, then you're gone. So this time the person was like, "How long you been coughing?" I said, "Probably about a week or so." Well, I'm gonna go ahead and give you an X-ray, and I was shocked because I was finna get ready to just walk out because I was thinking that maybe because I told her I think it's kind of like bronchitis, maybe. With me and MS, for unfortunately, I've always with the change of the weather, and the weather's been crazy this time. I get bronchitis,
Hmm.
and so that's why I was chalking it up with. So yeah, she like, no, okay, we go do that. She came back and said, well, Mr. Williams, I'm not a radiologist, but I think you have pneumonia. So I just sent it over to him, but I need you to take this antibiotic because I can't give you the other antibiotic because you're allergic to penicillin, and the other antibiotic you just had it a couple of weeks ago. So I don't want to give you the same antibiotic on top of it, the same antibiotic. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So yeah, that's been my weekend.
Oh,
So,
mercy.
guys, it is 7 o'clock, and just to introduce what we are about to talk about, me and Dr. Whitney. The title today is Will a Black Man Ever Have a Safe Place in This Country? I did say world, but I want to focus on this country because I can't speak for other countries. I don't know what's going on over in Africa, Europe, China, whatever, what black people are doing over there, black men anyway. But in this country, will we ever have a safe place? And so I am going to go ahead and tune that intro here and give us a second. So you didn't know I was a vampire in my previous life? You told me my collar was I had to put the other. My bad. My, my bad. My bad. I thought you knew that. I thought you knew that. Yeah, yeah. I go around biting my wife every night before she goes to bed. So,
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
so be careful. Uh, uh, so, Dr. Whitney, I would pretty much like to put in perspective. For those that are listening, if you haven't been in what this world calls the hood, or never turned on the TV to see the multiple unforgivable murders of black men, how could you not believe the fear that most black men deal with when they decide to walk out of their house, not knowing if they will make it back safe, let alone wake up just to walk around their homes in fear of what a door knock would bring? You can't when the world constantly speaks as if they or me don't have anything to worry about. When we all do, no matter the age or size. Um, as a black male, I'm not going to say that I'm not fearful for going outside because of what I see on TV. I can't say I have been pulled over before when I used to work for Enterprise, and during the heated moment of where it seemed that every freaking black person was getting pulled over. If it was a male, for some reason, it didn't go well. And it's a funny moment because I had my supervisor in the back and my white co-worker next to me, and I'm driving. So for those that don't know Enterprise, you transport cars back and forth for them sometimes, depending on if they're selling, buying, or just taking them off the old, decommissioning them or something like that. But we were going through one of those little small towns where the speed limit changes. And when you think it's really the speed zone, it goes from fast, slow, all the way down to like 2 miles per hour. And knowing that you can't sit and press on the brake in time enough before you go past that two, and the police, woo, 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 woo. So yeah, one of those situations. But I wasn't going that fast because one of those big old tractors with the big wheels that are, you can't go over or around until they move over, whatever. So that's what we're behind. All three of us, we were just talking, and I see the lights behind me. Now, granted, I am behind this tractor. It's a 45-mile-per-hour zone. If I got pulled over for going over the speed limit, how fast was that damn tractor going? So that was my thing. But worst part was when he came to the car, which I was pulled over far enough, he didn't even come on my side. He went to my wife's um, co-worker side and
Passenger.
asked me for my license and whatnot, and then asked me to get out the car. Which I've gotten pulled over a couple of times driving for Enterprise. Unfortunately, this is a long time ago, so I don't have those points anymore, guys. So thank you. um, I got to the back of the car. It was unfamiliar to me, and now my brain is just running. I'm trying to figure out why did I have to get out of the car. It wasn't like I was trying to get away or speeding, right? So, not really thinking because again, I'm not even sure why I'm out of the car. What does a person normally do if they're standing up and something is taking a long time? What do I just ask you to give me one guess? What does a person normally do?
Sometimes, if they're standing for a long time, they'll lean against something.
Okay, not quite. Me, I was getting ready to put my hands in my pocket.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got you.
Yes. So I'll put my hands in the pocket, and if I wasn't paying attention to him while I was doing it, he went for his gun.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, whoa, whoa. Why would I want to shoot you for a speeding ticket? But he calmed down. I got my speeding ticket. I left. And that was my harsh reality of at the end of the day,
Hmm.
we ain't safe.
Correct. Correct. And
I had
for,
that experience before.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Have you ever had that form of experience before?
No, not in that way. I've been pulled over, but I've never been asked to.
Oh, wait. Go back, Dr. Whitney. Do we have a lead foot there? Are you
Yeah,
saying this on live television?
yes, indeed.
Oh,
That was one of my mother's chief complaints about me and my driving.
you sound like my wife. I don't speed. How you get to work that's 6 miles away in 2 seconds? Come on.
I don't call myself a speeder. I just know how to get where I'm going. And so yes, that has been fortunately the only thing that I've ever been pulled over for.
Okay.
And my experience was pretty, I'm going to say, sterile because of the way that people assume the police handled the the traffic stop based on my appearance. If
Hmm.
I had had a much darker complexion, if I had had perhaps even a different car or some other type of something, if I had been male, I don't know that I would have been able to get through the traffic stops as simply as I did under some of the conditions of how fast I actually was going when I wasn't supposed to be
Were you
driving.
doing a super speeder?
Yes, the particular instance that I'm thinking about, it was not.
Wait, hold on. Wait. The better question is, what kind of car you got?
Oh, this isn't the car that I have now. And at the
What
time that
what
I
kind of
was
car you had then?
okay, the time that I was driving somebody else's car, and I didn't recognize that the plates were expired and out of state plates, no less.
So you just hauling ass in somebody else's car with somebody.
Yes, I was at that time. And fortunately, I've learned to do much better. But yes. And
Okay.
when I was pulled over, I was pulled over. He told me number one that I was going significantly faster than the speed limit. There were people waiting for me, and I felt like I needed to get to where those people were waiting for me, and I just
That's your excuse. You gonna stick with you gonna stick with it.
no, I'm serious that they were waiting for me. I didn't
Okay.
know about the plates being expired and the tags being out of state expired when I asked my friend if I could borrow his car to go help some other friends do something that they were trying to take care of.
Uh-huh.
So when I finally got to my friend's house and picked up his car, there was nothing stopping me from getting where I was going to help my other friends until the cop, the lights were in the back, and then finally stop. I saw that through the window, and I said, "Oh no, what happened?" So I pulled over,
What you say? Oh no, what happened?
right? Because, like I said, I had no idea what the issue was. I was had my music playing. I'm about to go help my friends. I was in my zone, and so when I'm
You
getting
was
pulled over,
singing and everything.
and I'm just completely confused about why. What's happening? Hi, officer. How you doing? And that at that particular time in my life was very jarring for me. I hadn't had a lot of experience with traffic stops that didn't go well. I just
Uh-huh.
didn't necessarily want that to be something that I would experience much more of. So, you know, when I finally got through the conversation with the officer, I didn't want to go do that thing that I was trying to hurry up to help my friends.
Oh,
I turned around and I went back to my friend's house and I told him I got pulled over in your car. And one of our other friends was there who happened to be a very tall, very dark skinned gentleman. And he laughed that I was upset because he said if I had gotten pulled over under those circumstances and got a warning, I would have continued going where I was going. It wouldn't have
ah,
bothered me in the absolute least. And I felt some kind of way about that. I felt like I get that that's what you're saying, but for you to say that almost means that you're not listening to my experience. You're not listening to why it was impacting me the way that it did.
yeah,
And on a broader sense, that is how many people deal with racism in general, especially white to black. When black
yeah,
people try to explain what they're enduring, the white listeners aren't receiving it because it doesn't look like what they would have done or what their experience would have been.
yeah. I can see that. Well, something that I didn't have on the criteria on the paper that I sent you is you got to be kidding me, right? Um, boss, don't kill me if you're listening. I felt like you have the brow. Just thought maybe I'll do something myself, and I'm calling it. You got to be kidding me. So So you got to be kidding me. That did you see the Grammys?
Yes.
I didn't see it, but my mom called me and said, "What happened to the rapper?" And I'm like, "I don't have live TV, so I don't. I've disconnected in that sense, right? And I'm really not on social media like folks think I am because I'm really just posting. I'm interacting with certain stuff,
Hmm.
but not so much that I just know what's going on. And so I had to go look into that, and Lord behold, Mike got arrested after winning his three awards and whatnot, and really don't know what the altercation is. I haven't gotten into that part. I don't know if that story is fully out yet, but I just find it strange. I'm a conspiracy person, so the fact that this man had cleared three of you trophies that you that you beat past a night, and all of a sudden, then you get him. Like somebody else was saying that I came across that they was talking about, but you allow Will Smith literally stay in the whole ceremony, not only and get his trophy and leave before you sit and say, "Oh, by the way, Will Smith, you can't come back ever."
Right.
you know, See, this is this is when even a situation where you can tell Killer Mike that he can't come back because obviously he got arrested for some outside of I'm assuming I think that's what they're trying to say, misdemeanor for something like an altercation or whatnot. And the altercation may have not even happened at the freaking the war ceremony. And if that's the case, that's even worse. Like, why you just ain't wait? It wasn't like the dude was going anywhere. He was getting his awards.
Or better still, it's not like you don't know where he is. It's as if they picked the Grammys to do this to embarrass him and take away
Yes.
from the musical prowess that he had just been recognized for.
Yes.
And I don't think that that was, of course, the best way for that to have been handled.
No.
And I believe exactly that it was deliberate to try and undermine his success and take away what would have been for him a very, very momentous occasion.
And it wasn't even the him. I don't think. I think at some point one of the trophies that the Grammys that he got was on live, but I know when he got the best rapper or the best album or whatever, one of them, or if not all three of them, were not televised, and
One
that was
of them
something Jay
was,
Z was
but
saying.
one of them was, but the other two were not.
Yes, and so there was, a lot of people are talking about it. Well, they may be talking about it now. I know Charlemagne was saying that, where's all the podcasters at on YouTube not saying anything about this, and they talk about everything else, right? But that's my you got to be kidding me on this episode of the Uncanny Takeover, because you do have to be kidding me. And it just set real real well with what we are talking about. Here he is out and about thinking he's going to have possibly what should have been the best time of his life, because like he stated, that little kid in him was jumping around with joy because it's something that he always wanted, just for you to take him out in handcuffs,
Hmm.
like how you see us anyway, pretty much. And so that goes to the question, Dr. Whitney: will a black man ever be safe in this country?
Well, as we begin the discussion tonight, I do always have to clarify that I am not a licensed doctor. That is a term of endearment that I truly appreciate. I am a communication consultant, and as such, there's a lot of crossover in the things that we talk about regarding communication and relationships and other elements. But to your question, will the black man ever have a safe place in this country? If things change, yes. If things do not change, no. That's an overarching generalization. And we do have a smaller focal point wherein there may be a yes answer to that question. And maybe we'll get into that a little bit later this afternoon or evening as it is.
I hope so. And I can definitely get behind what you just stated. At this moment, no.
Correct.
Um, Change is gonna have to come in order for it to be a yes.
Absolutely.
If it still stays the same way that it is now, it's a definite no. But I'm not gonna say definite. And you guys saw my disclaimer if you watched the very part of the intro, and if you didn't watch the intro, you just came in. By all means, rewind right quick and then come back, because I am not a specialist as well, but I'm gonna be honest with you. And I know she gets tired of me saying this, but like she stated, she's becoming a very great specialist in communication, and so that's why I consider her being a doctor. I'm not gonna say I'm a doctor per se yet, because I'm still graduating in the University of Life at the moment. I haven't gotten my PhD in it yet. I'm getting there, because it keep knocking me on my ass, and so I'm gonna be there after a while. I'm gonna be walking across that stage in a little bit. I'm just waiting for God to email it to me. So and it's gonna be on my accolades. So our next question. I want you to listen to the question, right? Because we have 3 points, bullet points, before you say anything. Because I want you to focus on answering the bullet points rather than the question, right? So, how did we get here? And I had to think, am I ready for this, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
I'm always telling myself, only because I know it to be true, but it's still that preservation of me holding back. Whereas, do I really want to cross that line? Am I ready for that? And then at night, I know it's God. And that's the funny part about it. Because again, I asked for it, right? I asked for this opportunity. I asked to be this vessel. And I mean, it's coming hard. And I listened to someone today um, that has actually a lot of clips that I'm playing. Dr. Umar. He stated something that resonated with me. I'm okay with it now because, like I was stating to you at the end of the other show, that I'm tired of not being myself. And I get it. You know, everybody is sensitive now. But my thing is, it's all about the intent when you're using words.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Absolutely.
Always about intent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I am about to intentionally use some words here from this point on. So, how did we get here? Our first bullet point is white supremacy power structure. We all know about slavery. We all know how slavery started over here in the country. You don't come in here or listen to this and comment like 4 or 5 months later and say, well, you do know that black people were enslaving other black people in other countries. I ain't talking about over there. I'm talking about here in the United States. I'm talking about this country. I can only talk about this country. I cannot tell you what's going on across the seas and how those black people were going. But I know over here where it started at, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
my video for that is where is it? Where did it go?
While you're finding the video link, that I'd like to add a little caveat to what you said. And caveat
Yes.
may not be the exact wording of it, but when people offer the objective perspective that there were black people in Africa who were selling other black people into slavery, I think one thing they need to understand is that the structure of racism and the racial hierarchy
Mm-hmm.
exist in other countries the way that it does now. It was a response to the necessity of the separation of people and the implementation of the racist structure that has people today looking at people back then thinking that they were classified as black then the way that people are now, and that's not
Right.
historically what was true. So when we experience when we hear the criticism that there were black people selling other black people into slavery, that's taken as the culture of today's black person selling other of today's black person into slavery. That's not what was happening. That that betrayal of a supposed brotherhood isn't what was happening in that day, because there were Africans who had loyalty to their tribe and their tribe only. So their consideration of other tribes as not equal to themselves were where the slave trades were happening. They weren't necessarily stabbing each other in the back the way that we say it today in application to back then. Now, that's kind of a splitting hair situation if you're talking African to African, but in
Uh-huh.
the practice of their loyalty to themselves, their selling of other people wasn't as egregious to them as it's implied today.
Okay. And I think that's and to add to that, I I don't know, it just kind of tease me off to when I hear people say, "Oh well, you know that your kind was doing it too over here." And I guess again, that's why I changed it from the world, because I can't speak in the world because I haven't been in the around the world. I've been in this country. I haven't been out of this country yet. I'm going to make it a best effort to get out. My wife wants to venture, and I think it will be educational too, as well, especially with some of the locations that I want to go. But I haven't been out of this country, so only thing that I know about it is country and this country's history.
Hmm.
So I can't speak on anything else. And so this is what we're talking about, guys. We're talking about this country. So any comments with outside of this country, you can keep it to yourself, you know. But if you're talking about something in here, let's go for it. I'm all down for the conversation. I love it. Um, so I want to say is this one here, but I think I messed up. But we're gonna try it and listen to it. And if not, I'll just come back.
Agree totally.
Mm,
You have Negroes and you have coons.
okay.
The Negro is completely ignorant.
Mm,
He would respond to what you just suggested.
mhm,
Take a Negro who think white people are everything,
mhm,
white women are beautiful, white people are more intelligent, black people are lazy.
mhm,
He's a Negro. He's been miseducated.
mhm.
You educate him, you can bring him back into the revolution, right?
Right,
He was just a Negro. He didn't know.
right.
But then you got the coon. The
Mhm,
coon knows
mhm,
that the white man ain't better. The coon knows that black people are the original people.
mhm,
But he's paid and financed
mhm,
to intentionally mislead his people.
mhm.
The Negro, I can work with because I can educate him out of his situation.
Right.
The coon is dangerous. The coon has stabbed me in my back the minute I turned my back. And that's why many of our African leaders from around the world have been betrayed by members of their inner circle. Patrice
Mm,
Lumumba, murdered by a friend. Thomas Sankara, murdered by a stepbrother. Malcolm X, murdered by people he trusted. Dr. King, set up by people he trusted. When you look at the black struggle globally, because you got to look at all of our heroes and sheroes, not just the ones here. Many of them were set up and sabotaged by people they grew up with and who they trusted. Kwame.
All right. So yes, that was the wrong one. That is actually for the next bullet point. So I'm gonna go since I just played that video. I'm gonna go ahead and come back to the white supremacy power struggle. I mean
Okay.
structure.
Okay.
Which the second bullet point, guys, is the and indoctrinate his story, and I said his as an HIS story because all we know, social study books, somewhat science books, literature, educational books in general have for years been a whitewashed type situation. And what I mean about that is my prime example is how you have Christopher Columbus that so-called discovered the United States and at the time the Americas and whatnot, which now he doesn't even have a day anymore per se. If
Correct.
you look at the calendar, it says on some of them it says Christopher Columbus, but it's small.
Mm-hmm.
It's Indigenous Day
Mm-hmm.
because now it's like they're trying to double back,
At
and
least
and
for
I don't
most.
even think I don't even think it's a uh, let me make it up to you and we're sorry type thing. Honestly, I just think is I'm getting tired of y'all fussing, and so what can we do?
Well, two quick points. So that there's no confusion in the statement that I made earlier and the statement that was made in the video. The video, Dr. Omar, Dr. Umar was talking about leaders being betrayed by their inner circles. Yes, that absolutely happens. He gave some fantastic examples of it happening, and fantastic being, the operative word in that statement. In comparison, what I was saying about how the slave trade was manned, there were people in different tribes who would sell other tribe members. And that presentation of them being as closely connected as the leaders are in the examples that he named, or as black people to black people today, is the fallacy because a lot of them weren't that tied to other tribes.
Right.
And that didn't look like the same type of sabotage that it would today. And that's one of the reasons that, okay, well, black people sold other black people into slavery also. That's one of the
Yeah.
reasons that that answer, that response is not substantiated. It doesn't have the teeth that it's given, because the loyalty dynamic today is being superimposed on people back then, and it didn't exist that way for the different ethnicities that were involved in populating the slave trade. The second thing I wanted to point out was what you said about the whitewashing of certain histories.
The miseducation.
Yes, that absolutely happens. And to that extent, I'd like to introduce our talking about critical race theory. Not a
Yes.
complete expostulation of it, but just critical race theory is the premise that asks the question, how does race factor into systems and outcomes that were supposed to be fair? And when you say on purpose that critical race theory teaches division, or that it creates an inherent sense of guilt, you're turning people's attention away from the points that critical race theory is supposed to illuminate in order
Yes.
that these things be changed. So the miseducation goes over a lot of different facets in society as we currently know it.
Yes. I it's again, if no one can't smell BS when the other side, and I'm speaking in as in white supremacy, the other side starts biting their nails, start getting anxious, and start pulling stuff. Cause my this is so a side story, and not to get deep into it, but when you sit up here and you tell me for years that there's no such thing as UFOs, you're canceling people for talking about UFOs. You're sending people to the crazy house for talking about being abducted and stuff. Then all of a sudden, now we have this woke moment, and it's like they start panicking, like, oh crap, how can we distract people? Oh, I know, man. You know what? We been meaning to let all this out, and how about we just do it now? Here's a bunch of pieces of paper that tells you that UFOs are real, but then when you go to these pieces of paper, you may see the he had is because they all blacked out and you can't you can't see everything.
All
It's
of the
like,
this was redacted. Yes, it's like, we're giving you the document, but
yeah,
you can't prove anything by
man, we're giving you all this stuff. I
right,
can't read it. What
right,
is it? So it's like you
exactly.
can really tell when you lying. Stop all that lie. You know what I'm saying? So I I just think that this is like, and I'm gonna go back to the white supremacy power structure because it's pretty much where it started at, and with slavery.
And how it
And
continues,
huh?
where it started, and how it continues.
Yes, and how it continues, and that's what I was going to say. The miseducation is part of that power struggle structure, and this is just, I'm not giving white supremacy all the power neither. I can't sit up here and say pretty much very at the very beginning. Yes, they created a system that miraculously ended up being probably one of the best things that they ever done with the forefathers, right? But there's nothing that they have to do because with the miseducation and the reprogramming of us, we keep it, we keep it upheld
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely.
unconsciously to a degree, but some of us know exactly what we're holding on to.
I would proffer that more people do it deliberately than those who don't. Absolutely.
Yes.
And when we were looking at a recent political campaign, I'm not going to get into politics necessarily, but just to extrapolate this point, the difference between miseducation and diseducation, misinformation and disinformation, is the same thing that's different between those two concepts. If you are miseducated, you're taught the wrong thing,
Right.
and you can have that corrected.
Yeah.
But if you're given disinformation, disinformation is a deliberate wrong teaching in order for you to continue to act in that wrong. And
Mm.
for an example of what we're saying, critical race theory again, disinformation about critical race theory is that it teaches division when it really doesn't. When you have people believing that the things that will enable necessary social change are in themselves inherently divisive, then you turn people away from those things that could implement change. That
Yep.
is deliberate. That is disinformation. They are told those wrong things so that they will perpetuate the structure that you're talking about.
Right. And that's the sad part about it. And kind of expounding on what you just stated, that most of us know exactly what we're upholding. And we just think that maybe they'll go away. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So just to backtrack to the white supremacy power structure. Like I said, I played the wrong video. Let me grab that right quick. I don't know. I guess I've been on my Dr. Umar has just been speaking to me here lately. I'm not sure why. He's
Yes,
been coming out of the woodwork for
yes,
me.
yes. And I do
Um,
think that that was a very good point that he made, but it speaks to intent. It speaks to the person who knows what they're doing is wrong and continues to do that wrong.
and both of those people that he spoke of were black. So
Yes, that is,
you guys
yes,
just know if y'all misunderstood his wordage,
yes,
his description of who
and
he was talking about, he's talking about two sets of black people.
absolutely.
And so,
To that end, I just seen a video recently about a young black man telling other black men not to participate in the civic duty and the government structure of voting because voting would make them puppet. That's what this black man was saying to his black followers. Don't vote because voting makes you a puppet. It makes you play into their system that you
and
know
he kind of
is
spoke on that in this.
no.
I watched this whole interview, and he kind of spoke on that with that, but he didn't say it like that. He did say that if we voted together
Hmm.
instead of separately as a unit, then that will make a different change. But we're all voting singularly, and
Video
it's
that I was
coming
talking
across
about,
like that.
the video that I was talking about, the young man was telling black people not to vote at all, not
Yeah.
vote in unanimity with others, like
Okay.
Doctor was saying. He was saying don't vote at all because that makes you a puppet.
But some, I think, okay, so yeah, I guess that's one point I was going to get at, that he was explaining a better way that we need to do it,
Exactly.
but
Yes.
other people are saying either vote or don't vote, and which we need to vote, but we need to vote as a united front
Hmm.
and sit and demand, like, if you really want our vote,
This
this is
is what
what
you have
we're demanding, because it's pretty much what the businesses are doing.
to. Hmm.
And so um we're not we're not getting um we're not putting our foot down. We're getting pacified and we run with it, and then after our binky falls out and ends up on the ground and they don't want to pick it up and wash it, then we get mad and want to kick and have a tantrum and stuff, and it's too late. Nah, they already in the office.
I know that there will be many people who do not agree with the next statement that I'm about to make. It
Ooh,
goes
come on, say it.
it goes in perfect tandem with everything that we're discussing as far as specifically being pacified is concerned. Christopher Columbus is no longer Christopher Columbus Day. It is now Indigenous Peoples Day for the pacifying of that sect
Yes.
of people.
Yep.
Um, Juneteenth is the same thing.
Ooh,
For
that's a big pacifier.
absolutely, because Juneteenth was made into a federal holiday just as the discussion was being held regarding a George Floyd policing justice and policing
Oh
act
yeah.
that Congress
Crap. Give
did
him a holiday.
pass, that Congress did not pass, and then Juneteenth came on the heels of the Justice and Policing Act not being passed.
Yep.
So when we talk about things being deliberate, they are indeed deliberate. And critical race theory would explode over this topic. It would explode over this premise, because asking the question, how does race factor into systems that are supposed to be fair? Why did Congress block a Justice in Policing Act? Why did the 2013 Supreme Court strip a lot of the voting power out of the Voting Act of 1964? And now they want to put those things back in and call it the John Lewis Voting Act. If it had not been changed and made void of its power, there wouldn't be the need for them to pretend that they're trying to restore those elements to voting rights and voting abilities. One of the first questions, not first, one of the questions that I've always had regarding how this structure is continually perpetuated, even among our voting rights as citizens. Why is voting always up for debate every 20 or so years? Why isn't it just an amendment to the Constitution and not a firm structure in
Yeah.
the fabric of the documents that govern how this country is supposed to be run? That's a critical race theory question all day. And one of the reasons that people don't like those questions is that they have to come face to face with what they've done. They have to come face to face with why they want to do it.
Are
But
you are you seriously saying that critical race theory actually caused depression in white kids during school if they talk about it? Or is that what you're telling me, Dr. Whitney?
that's what it's been blamed for
That's what
as a reason to not teach it. But that raised an equally interesting question. Critical race theory, as it deals with enslaved people, you have all types of generational things that have happened as a result of that slavery. You don't want
yes.
to deal with that. You don't want to open those issues and deal with those things. You just rather stop that discussion because it makes white children uncomfortable. That shows you.
I don't even think it makes white children uncomfortable. I think it's more or less the parents than anything.
Oh, absolutely. But that was the blame. That was the rationale.
Yeah.
That was the justification. So the idea became, we don't want to talk about this because we don't want to make white children uncomfortable. But what about the black children who are uncomfortable
Right.
in this generation and generations to come if nothing
Mhm.
changes? As critical race theory implores those things that will institute change if yielded to. But there are people that don't want things to change. So certain things can't be talked about. You're woke now as the insult that it's become versus
Mhm. And, you know, and they've made that so bad that even a set group of black people are like, "Oh my god, this woke stuff," and
exactly.
which they've jumped on the bandwagon too as well. Though
Yeah, absolutely.
they're being woke as well, and it just seemed like is I even go back to what we were stating about with the pacifying. Um, People got tired of you gave what's my boy name? MLK a day, but then you didn't allow us to be off. But the bank had off and some. political white people to a certain degree had off and stuff, but then we still had to go to work. So then you kind of changed that to a point that it became a federal holiday in a sense and stuff. And so again, the shows, I don't know how many freaking white shows have been blackwashed since the
Oh,
pandemic.
mercy. Do you mean like the Wonder Years?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm like, why? I'm like, why? It's
Blackwash.
and I'm and before you guys, anybody on the other side come and tell me that's what's going on in the movies. I ain't talking about the Marvel things and all this because those are comic books and anything can be changed when it comes to stories like that. It cartoon is not an indefinite thing, which though I know that's a fiction, a fiction. Crap, can't say the word right.
Fictitious?
A fictitious character, the Wonder Year thing, but still, like
The prim-
man, it's just a pacifier to me. Like, oh, maybe now you want, which I'm fine with putting black actors in roles and whatnot. But let me get to this video before I keep going. So, guys, this is the title on this video says why they hate black people in America. But we're focusing on this with black males. So, this is just a good segue to the white supremacy power structure.
Why they hate blacks in America so much. The white power structure. We're the only non-white people in the country who cannot be sent home.
Right.
You cannot be deported. Slavery destroyed your cultural, psychological, and intellectual connection to your ancestral homeland. If the Ghanaian get on your nerve, he go back to Ghana. If the Puerto Rican gets on your nerves, he go back to Puerto Rico. If the Afro-Cuban gets on your nerves, he or she go back to Cuba. If the Chinese get on your nerves, send them back to China. If the East Indian gets on your nerves, send them back to India. If the Arab gets on your nerve, send them back to one of the Middle Eastern states. But when American Africans get on your nerves, where do you deport us to? Most American Africans are so brainwashed, they think they're American. So you cannot deport them because this is what they identify with most. So in other words, the white man created his own problem, which makes it almost impossible to deport us. So the only way to get rid of us is a systemic system of racial genocide. And that's what they're using.
And I had a problem with that for the longest. I'm like, dude, where am I going? You tired of me. Where am I going? I'm American. I was born here. This is my country. Like, I can't speak for my very first ancestor. I can't speak for them because no, they were not born here. I was. So I am American. And he's made a statement before where America is the only country that has racial, maybe that's not the right word to use, but racial American terms. White, Caucasian American, African American, Chinese American. If they were born here, hell, we American. Cause I see a lot of white white Africans walking around, and they're not called white Africans. They're called Africans on their thing. They're an African. Where you from? I'm African. You white though? Yeah, but that's where I was born. So, for a person like me that wasn't smart enough to understand that there's an issue right here, I will be questioning that. Like, that don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? So, how do you feel about the white supremacy power structure being the overall reason, the very beginning of why, as a black male like myself, it is hard to be safe in this country?
One country, two sets of rules. That's a very simple answer to a very layered question. But in this one country, of course, we do recognize that there are two sets of rules. A particular, um, if a black person and a white person do the same thing, if they commit the same crime, let's say let's say it's the 4th of July and a white person has a gun, they shoot the gun in the air, it disturbs some neighbors, they call the police show up, that person says, yes, it was me, I'm sorry, I have my license, here's the gun, here's everything, and then they're going to be charged with um, reckless endangerment, maybe indecent use of a weapon or something like
Right.
that. But a black woman was recently charged with attempted murder for trying to dismantle what may have been a riot. There were some young people who had gotten into a fight, and when I say some, I'm talking about maybe 5, 10, 7, 15. There was a group of people who were about to engage in a fight. She shot a gun in the air to get their attention, to make the fighting disperse, and she was charged with attempted murder. Why was the white man who shot a gun into the air charged with something that's a misdemeanor, and the black woman who shot a gun into the air charged with a felony? Number one, felonies carry more jail time than misdemeanors. But the
Mm,
point is, if they did the same action, why wasn't the same charge implied on both of them? Because
mm.
it's one legal system, but they're two sets of rules. Or how did I say that before? One country, two sets of rules.
Yes.
The premise, the premise is that there have not necessarily been publicized young white fathers having a conversation with their white teenage sons about how to handle traffic stops.
They don't have to.
Their position that a traffic stop is an inconvenience, whereas
Yes.
young black
Oh man, they little kids be cussing and fussing. You
telling
don't know my dad.
officer, you don't have the authority, I'm going to do what I want, and
Yep.
all types of things. But if a young black person is pulled over by the police, it instantly becomes a life or death situation for them. When for certain young white people, all it is an inconvenience in their day. We continue to see how black people who have been accused of crimes are killed on the spot, and white people who are actual criminals being arrested peacefully and with their lives. So, to answer your question, the white supremacist power structure is absolutely one of the reasons that a lot of black men do not feel safe to do anything. We look at, for unfortunate example, we remember what happened with Trayvon Martin. He was in
Man.
the neighborhood where he was, and another minority, as it were, happened to see him and took it upon himself that this young black kid in a hoodie shouldn't be in this particular neighborhood, and that wasn't of his to decide. The police told him to stand down, and
Yes.
he didn't. So with that, we're looking at how these things are played out legally, when even from the start, a black person will be charged with something that carries a heavier penalty than a white person will, when it's the same thing, it's the same action. But but black people are charged with heavier crimes because those crimes carry heavier penalties, which means they're more likely to go to jail for it than this white person who did that very same thing and was charged with something light that they
I
could
had
get
an
a
example.
slap on the wrist for.
I had an example for that, and I can't find the video. I was just playing with it. But it was I would have to find it too. But they talked about, true enough, the black person, he was selling contraband. So he was doing a crime.
Mhm.
You're doing a crime, okay, you get arrested. Sure. But during the process of arresting this, you better not do it. You better. Oh, okay. Sorry, my child.
Mhm.
I thought he had to go use the bathroom. He was gonna ring the doorbell. Uh, but they they pretty much choked him to death,
Mhm.
and they showed it. You know how he was. It's a big dude, and he was not fighting back and being very forceful, choked him to death. But here, this white man um kills his daughter and his wife. He's out, butt naked, running around. The police, they have assault rifles, and their guns. Their assault rifles are hanging around their neck, just a dangling, and they got the gun or taser in their hand, while this white man butt ball naked, looking like a Thanksgiving turkey ready to be put in the oven, running around, and he's running behind the police. The police are running from him, like, oh, oh, and we all know. And this was going on for 3 to 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
He even put his hands around a police officer's neck when they went to a car and still got away running again.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't even gotten as far as trying to take our clothes off, let alone if we was already naked. And if we came to the door naked,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
we would have gotten taken out.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, the structure
Mm-hmm.
of the system that they put in place, and I came across a TikTok where they basically they was talking about how the forefathers were thinking that they were not going to live to see their system in play, but they knew exactly that structure that they put in play and how it was going to work and how um, I mean they played their cards right.
To a degree,
And huh?
to a degree, I believe that. But the other side of constitutional law is that, number one, yes, we agree that the Constitution was written by predominantly white people. There weren't any African Americans, as we're called now, in that room, as far as we know. So we
I
understand that
thought they were.
there might have been. I just don't know their names right off.
Okay.
For the overarching premise, there are there's the argument that a government for the people and by the people was supposed to be an implementation of fairness. It was supposed to be an implementation of the freedoms that citizens were denied in other countries that caused them to come here in the first place.
But we weren't people though, so it didn't
Right. I
apply
was
to us.
just about to, I was just about to say that. The idea of what is supposed to be a system of equality did not at that time it was written include black people as equal. The fight now is that as citizens, we deserve the rights of citizenship.
But think about what you just said, and let me interject. Think about what you just said. As citizens, and
Hmm.
I get it. On paper, we are citizens.
Well, I
In
don't
real life,
know about that, but where I was going is
we're
exactly where,
not people.
yes, that's exactly what I was leading to as I moved into the premise. And because of that, that goes back to the one country, two systems of law situation, and the 13th Amendment was in fact used to reinstitute slavery, but not call it that. And that is one of the tactics of the structure as we're discussing it. There are people who will say, there are people who will say that racism was abolished in the 1800s, so it doesn't exist now. And what racist law is on the books right now? That's what they'll say. That's what their argument is. And
All of them.
the the problem with certain racist practices is that over the generations, people have learned not to put it out blatantly as racism. What they'll
Hmm.
do is structure whatever the law is so that when it's executed, the outcome will weigh predominantly on minorities. And
Yeah.
there are, we've, not we as in you and I, there have been people who've I'm thinking specifically about an interview that I saw, and I don't remember the man's name, but that's what he was talking about when we're dealing with critical race theory. He was trying to say there's this objective aspect of it, and objectively he was correct, but his his presentation was that the law itself isn't written in racist language because the people know not to do that. They know that in this day there would be hell to pay, if at least in name, if they wrote a law that said black people must be convicted at higher rates than white people. They know that if they wrote that in the law, there would be serious backlash. So
But
what
will it though?
is,
Like seriously, at the
well,
end of the day, will it be a backlash if they were to say something like that? Because the stuff that they're doing deliberately on TV
mhm,
practically is offensive and wrong, and there's no backlash. And which, true enough, there are some protesting being done during the process or whatnot, and somewhat still. But I'm like, a part of me feels that again, all we have to do is pacify them, and we can get right back into it.
I don't disagree with that. When we talk about what the backlash would be, you said that there might be some protesting and then that's kind of it. If we're looking at it from the perspective of that protest being the backlash, people saying out loud that black people must be convicted more at a higher rate than white people, that would incite some people. It would appear as bad to some people. So they've gotten aware that that's not the way they want to write it. What they do is take a crime that happens more in concentrated areas in inner cities where black people are highly populous versus that same or similar crime in a white area with some different caveat and make
Kind of
what
like the black on black crime that they
community
seem
a
to promote
higher
all
crime
the time more than anything.
than what's in white people's neighborhoods. Exactly. So these are the things that critical race theory uncovers. And these are the reasons that critical race theory has been banned and the reason that people don't want to talk about it because it unveils exactly the point that you're making. And it makes it presents the idea that if this system is supposed to be fair, why is a black person charged with a felony crime and a white person charged with a misdemeanor crime when they did the same thing?
Right.
And to your point that there would be some protest, but the overarching attitude is pacify them. Some people have begun to call that notion the long game. They understand that once you go for, Rand Paul, why is he in my mind for this? I believe it was also in connection with how George Floyd was murdered on TV. Right after that, Rand Paul said something that he shouldn't have said, and there were people who were surrounding him and impeding the way from wherever he was to get to his house. Right after that, if I'm trying to remember the actual occurrence of events, but where I'm going with this is that long game. They know that if they just deny the protesters long enough, or better yet, make it against the law for them to protest so that they can be arrested on felony of protesting, all we have to do is keep that going long enough for the people to understand that if they protest, they'll go to jail. If they let us do whatever we're going to do whatever we want to do anyway because they don't have the resources to fight in numbers. And if we put on social media videos of black people telling other black people not to vote, then whatever power they would have yielded at the ballot box will also be lost to them. So, absolutely, you're right that this is deliberate, but need to we do need to understand that it doesn't have to stay like this. There is a way forward. And once that way forward is identified, we act on it collectively, then there can be a change made.
Yeah. Again, guys, and again, I'm speaking on the black males that as much as we don't want to believe what this is what happened, and this is my opinion. So I'm gonna say it like that. This is just my opinion. Um, the power that we can have now, and I'm not using power carelessly, but power in the sense of confidence, strength, um, belief, and just overall faith and I'm safe, right? That was initially from the very beginning taken away from us. Um, we have glimpsed a part of it in many occasions. Kind of like that the video that you sent to me earlier today about the city in Mississippi. You know, you got to think about Black Wall Street. Um, the many cities in Georgia that were taken out. Um, so it's not that we didn't put our hands on it. And something that we are saying constantly, why aren't we making our own table? Why are we consistently making a table for them so that they can sit proudly and then ask them, hey, by the way, you know, I built this fine table for you. Do you mind if I sit at it? For them to say, oh no, this is too rich for your blood, sir. Uh, so, and I get it. It's scary because I had someone say, well, they ain't gonna do nothing but burn it down. That may be so, but you can't burn down everyone. And what I mean about it is if we were a community instead of being divided like they planned to do us as males and use this alpha maleism that we keep carrying around and about how we provide and we protect
Mm-hmm.
and use that as a community project to sit
Mm.
up here and construct a black neighborhood that is safe for kids to go out and play. Um, a black neighborhood that we're not purposely selling drugs to our kids, to our elders, just because we're so fascinated with the money that it brings, the quick money that it brings.
Mm-hmm.
Create a community that if anybody were to step in it black, green, purple, yellow, we are protecting them. You know what I'm saying? And we have this. We have the ability to do it. But at the end of the day, we're terrified and we are complacent with what we've been given. We are like going to the next bullet point. We're so traumatized and the transgenerational trauma. This guy here kind of wraps it in a bundle for me. But I'm gonna go ahead and play it.
About black men and let's talk about black men and the history of anger. What if our anger as black men is embedded in us due to years and years of transgenerational trauma? Let's look at it. We gotta sit back sometimes and realize, did we choose this anger? Or was this anger placed on us? The anger has been passed down from generation to generation and just kind of building like a huge snowball. All in all, we gotta understand the anger within our society in order to break it down and at times accept it in order to build a better future.
So before we hit on this video, I came across a study I was trying to find the same study that I had found when I first got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I was just trying to figure out, h- how did I get this disease? How can I get rid of it? What is it that I can do outside of taking chemo medication that I'm doing? Unfortunately, I came across a study about rats and how the fear of being shocked by the ring of a bell was passed down on the study. They had the rats had babies and they shocked them, right? I couldn't find that study. And when I did find it, it was like a jewel for me. And I felt like I wasn't going to find it again because when I did look for it again, when I did have it, I don't know where I saved it at. It was taken offline. So, um, again, people do stuff like that when stuff starts to be uncovered.
Mm-hmm.
But to go a little bit in depth with certain fears can be inherited through the generations. A provocative study of mice reports the author suggests that a similar phenomenon could influence anxiety and addiction in humans, but some researchers are skeptical of the finding because of biological mechanism that explains the phenomenon has not been identified. And I love how it's so easy for the masses to say that, oh, because that can't be true. It goes back to the critical race theory for me. It can't be true because I don't see it, or I don't want to see it. Let me say it like that. I don't want to see it.
Can I
So
can I
go ahead.
interject a quick point?
Yeah.
If anger can be genetically transmuted, then hatred and racism can too.
Yes.
And we know that that's not how racism is perpetuated. We know that it's taught to the
It's
kids
been taught.
to
Yes.
think things about black people, to think that the black baby dolls are ugly and the white ones are pretty. And it's a mentality that's cultivated in order to continue their ideologies.
Hmm.
That's a deliberate measure. That's a deliberate tactic. That is done on purpose.
Yes.
In the same way, and in a different way at the same time, the anger that is transferred from generation to generation should be taught. It should be taught what has happened. It should be taught why the conditions are as they are. In this particular situation, the lack of a genetic marker would not be evidence that it does not carry generationally, because the ideology is carried. One generation teaches it to the next, even if it's hatred or if it's the anger in response to that hatred. One generation is teaching it to the next. The first
Okay.
having a tool, having a deliberate reason for doing it, and the other being a response to
Hmm.
what has been happening.
Okay.
I think those are important distinctions to make, because I don't want people to say this man was born angry. He has an anger issue, and I couldn't reason with him because of his inherent anger issue. And then that gives them excuse to shoot when they didn't even try to
But
have
that's exactly what they're saying, though.
about
And
this.
they are saying that we're angry. Heck, they have they have basically made us to believe that you all are angry. And I'm gonna finish this before I say my point. Um, According to conventions, the genetic sequences contained in DNA are the only way to transmit biological information across generations. Random DNA mutations, when beneficial, enable organisms to adapt to changing conditions. But this process typically occurs slowly over many generations. Yet some students have hinted that environmental factors can influence biologically more rapidly through um, dang, I can't remember how to say this word.
Epigenetic.
Yes, because I had to figure that out on what's called. It's really crazy. Epigenetic modification, which alter the expression of genes, but not their actual um, nucleotide sequence. For
Mhm,
instance, boys that were conceived during the harsh propaganda known as slavery in the 1600s are at increased risk of diabetes, heart disease, and other conditions, possibly because of epigenetic alterations to genes involved in these diseases. Yet, although epigenetic modifications are known to be important for processes such as development and inactivation of one copy of the X chromosome in females, their role in the inheritance of behavior is still controversial, yet distinctly logical. And I added that last part. And to go back to, and I just want to get finished reading that so we can have that. But going back to what you said, that um it did make me second guess that, are you born racist after hearing that? Because, and like how he stated, and I'm gonna go back to the study of the rats, which was so profound for me when I first came across it. Again, I I was looking, trying to figure out about MS because I found out that they've done some studies with rats where they've given rats multiple sclerosis, and by taking some of the whatever from a dead a person's, from the brain and whatnot, and implementing it on a rat. And I didn't know that you can give something MS by doing that. That's how crazy science is, right? But like, and I go back to the study. The study was, you had a group of rats, and we're just gonna make it short. So 5 rats end up um ringing a bell and getting shocked.
mhm,
They had kids.
mhm,
Same thing.
mhm,
Shocked them and rung a bell and shocked them. They had kids. Same thing. Rung a bell, shocked them. They had kids. So forth and so on. It just went through a process, right? Then they stopped. Once they had the last set of kids, all they had to do was to ring the bell, and the rats did this.
mhm, mhm. It's Pavlov's conditioning. It's yeah.
Yes. So I would say that that anger was more of a condition than, and I think a lot of I think that's just part of that conditional trauma.
Mhm.
Um and why? Because I'm at PetSmart trying to figure out, and I get that you're coming to get fish, but you're coming to get fish in a place that you already know dogs are going to be at, and
Mhm.
you're scared shitless of dogs. And
Mhm.
I've asked them so many times, so many different people, and they gave me different stories. And like, why are you so scared of dogs? And this is young to older black people. I don't know. I just scared them. Ain't nothing ever happened to them. I've never been bit by one. I just had never. And so for me, that right there, in a sense, makes sense that this is something, or there's the fear of, heck, water or whatnot. But what you was about to say?
While we understand that the anger against imbalanced structure can be taught and is not biological, I don't want us to appear to undermine the justification in the anger. I don't want us to sound like, oh, that anger is just taught. They shouldn't feel that way. No, that
Right,
isn't what we're saying.
right,
Saying that as a response to what is happening in society, the response is anger.
right,
That person was not born with anger any more than any person is born a racist. But in response to what they're taught, they become racist. In response to what they see, they become angry. And that response is justified. I don't want us to sound like it's not when we say it's conditioned.
y'all hear that? So um I want to ask this question before I play the video. Um, did the reprogramming work? And what I mean about that is me and my wife had a discussion earlier today. How we were made to believe, like now, kids. All right, so how kids seem to have so many rights when it comes to definitely like discipline. Back in our days, some we got
Exactly.
our ass whipped. And some of it was,
Yeah.
yeah, some of it was traumatizing for some folks and whatnot. Just depend on the child. Because you have some kids like, I'm good, I'm all right, and nah, you was traumatized. You got your ass whooped, and you just can't see it. But so we were trying to figure out now. And I get it because we're in family counseling with our kids, and the counsel is with a therapist. She is teaching some great methods, natural and logical consequences. Natural consequences are, if you go steal that, you're gonna get arrested.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, I, or how she stated that a child is trying to learn how to walk, and they're gonna bump their head. Now, granted, you don't want the child to get hurt, but if you're constantly saving them or stopping them from just at least bumping themselves, you're teaching them that they're going to be saved all the time, or you're getting them out of trouble. And so that's even with adults. If you're constantly pacifying
Mm-hmm.
in the community, we constantly gripe, argue, because we know to a certain degree they're going to give us something, and then we're satisfied with it for just a little bit. Not all of us. I just feel like there maybe we don't feel that they're going to give us something, but they feel if they give us something, we're going to be satisfied, especially if they wrap it up in a nice looking bow that's saying that, oh yes, you have equal rights, and
And
then they take it away from you.
and if they present it to someone that you would feel wrong in questioning. For the
That part.
perfect example,
That part.
go to Juneteenth. Forgive me that I don't remember her name right now, but the mother of Juneteenth was the one who was standing out in public every day when it was declared that this is the new federal holiday. They put her out there in front so that we see her, and it's her struggle that we won't want to speak out loud against. It's her
Right.
burdens that we would be wrong if we said didn't happen, or that this wasn't worth it, wasn't valuable for something. And it's her celebration that we're supposed to be brought into and move forward with. Even right after this happening, the Justice in Policing Act was not passed in Congress. So
Oh, but they got a holiday out of
it
it.
it's absolutely deliberate. It's absolutely deliberate that those are the kinds of things that's happening.
Yeah.
And and the safety that particularly black men, also black people in general, are forced to function without is much bigger than simply the police, because
Yes,
Congress
it is.
is
It's
the
not just the police. His work is,
yet Congress is the governing body of this country. And if they
yes,
are in on the imbalances and working through this structure to
yes.
facilitate the things that would keep that imbalance in place,
Mm-hmm.
where do we go when something bad has happened? Where is our outlet? What is our appeal process
Oh
when
man, we ain't got nothing. We got to pull ourselves up our bootstraps.
and then we complain if we say that out loud that no, and then we are charged with complaining if we say out loud that that's what has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Much conversation has gone on about a certain movie, about a certain doll that that the value of the story was the imbalances and how difficult it is to be two different aspects in the same being. Otherwise, you'll be ridiculed and otherwise, you'll be criticized. That's true for the Black community as a whole.
Right.
There are, except the difference is, nope, no exception. That's true for the Black community as a whole. For clarity, the distinction I was going to offer was that for the Black community, there are people within the Black community that criticize other Black people for attaining certain positive achievements and accomplishments. And if you can speak well, if you know your father, if you wear a certain type of clothes, you're accused of acting white within the Black community. That's how that's kind of taken. I was going to say the difference is male to female, that there were no women who were promoting that imbalance as thoroughly as there are Black people working against the success of other Black people. But
Mm-hmm.
there are women who say the same types of illogical sexist things that men say. There are Black people who say the kind of illogical racist things that white people say.
Mm.
And that's why I said that there's really no distinction, as I thought it was at first. There's really not. And where all of this comes is that sense of anxiety that people carry just doing day-to-day normal things. If I get up and go to work, if I'm stopped in a certain neighborhood, is that going to be the end of my life? There are
Right.
questions that Black people have to ask themselves every day that a white person would never think about. In the very same way, I would offer consideration, male to female again, just a minute ago. Women in general are constantly worried about our safety. We walk with our keys laced between our hands or our fingers on the pepper spray trigger just in case somebody jumps out from behind our car. We're doing all of these things to keep ourselves safe. And I came across a study where they asked men, how often do you feel like you have to take an extra step to prevent yourself from being attacked sexually? Most of the men said, I never think about that. I don't have to take any steps. I never have to take any steps. They don't recognize the burden that it becomes for women then to have to constantly worry about our own safety and constantly worry about if we don't do this, not only will this bad thing happen, but we'll be blamed for it.
Right.
Transpose that whole structure racially. How many white men have ever been interviewed and said, when you get pulled over by the cops, what do you do to keep them from killing you? Nothing. I, you know, some cops have been shot by white people when they've been pulled over, by the way. So they're not worried about being pulled over. And it's not a life or death situation for them the way that it would be for a Black person. This Black people in general are always thinking, how do I remain safe? Especially when a young white man with a gun can go into a Black church and shoot people.
Mm.
When a young white man with a gun can go into a Black grocery store and shoot people.
Mm.
These things would create anxiety in people who don't carry generational trauma. On top of the generational trauma, that is a serious mental load for someone to balance. And to always be told that if you step any way out of line, then the police will be justified in their eyes if they shoot you. You're
Yeah.
going to die as a consequence of a natural response to what would overwhelm anybody.
Kind of like that killing act that you had sent me.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And it's like, where does a person go mentally to get away from that? Oh, they can't smoke certain things because now they're going to go to jail for felony possession with intent to distribute. when somebody else might be charged with something very simple and get community service or something.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
So this is like a two video fold on about the actually it's kind of like three. There's one
okay.
video that's the dude is watching another video, but I
Mhm.
gotta stop it before he say what he has to say because you'll understand when I stop him and then I play it.
Okay.
But so yeah, this oh I know I did want to say before I press the video. Me and my wife were talking about the discipline act and or not the discipline act, but how the discipline thing was, and then nowadays,
All the
the,
rights
the,
that
the,
kids have.
the doctors and white people were saying, no more doing that, right? But it was a grand gesture to tell someone that if you don't change your name, Mr. Kunta, you're gonna get beat, you're gonna die. And that's like a punishment. That's a bad punishment. That's not a natural consequences,
True.
logical neither.
Yes.
And
Are-
so
On the name change, I thought you were going with Nikki Haley in that situation, but you.
yeah, no.
I'm
Oh
totally
no.
with you on that. I'm totally with you on what you said.
Yeah, no, not that. But this is crazy. Miss Whitney. You ready? Yeah, because the first part is cool. I like the first part. The second part, I don't know. We might not see eye to eye. We may do. So,
Bruh.
Somebody gave a lecture about racial trauma, and this person came up to me and said, "What'd you think of the lecture?" I said, I thought it was good. That person explained a lot of things that y'all need to hear." And she said, "Well," and this is a good-hearted, kind, thinks I'm getting it kind of a woman. And she said, "Well, I liked it too, but I was really frustrated because he said that black people, and particularly men, experience trauma every day. That can't be true." I said, "It's absolutely true.
Damn.
I don't know a black person, particularly black men, that don't experience trauma every day." And she said, "How could that be?" I said, "Let me explain it to you.
Explain it.
If I locked you in your bedroom and I took the most venomous snake and I threw it in the bedroom with you and I locked that door and I close it and I don't let you in for a week, I don't let you out for a week, you didn't just experience trauma on the day you got bit. You experienced trauma every second of every day because you knew there was a venomous snake around." And she was like, "Oh, I get it now." Well, I'm tired of explaining that to y'all.
That's right.
all right. So, I'm keeping the video up because we got the second part. So, and we're going to try to be quick because we're really running out of time. But, so do you think he gave like a great example?
Yes, I think that's a
Okay.
good example because it
Okay.
shows how trauma has its place in emotional settings even before anything physical happens. I
Right.
absolutely think that's a great example.
Right. So, now, guys, anybody that's watching this, the second part,
Okay.
I'm playing.
Oh goodness! Wow.
Okay.
Black people experience trauma every day. Now, the venomous snake scenario. What venomous snake are you talking about? Brother, expand on that. What room are we locked in with a venomous snake in there? Let me just tell you this. We bigger and badder than a venomous snake. All you gotta do is get him in the corner. Bam! It's over. We good. Y'all fools. If we're living in a situation where there's a venomous snake in the room, kill a snake and move on. It's that simple. You are smarter than the snake. Take your shirt off, throw it over the snake, and stomp it until it is flat as an ironing board. But see, brothers like this are the reason why so many people have an excuse to be a victim. Brother, instead of you whining, talking about they just got us locked in a room with a venomous snake. Do you not understand that you got more power than a snake? Y'all fools waiting to get bit. Laying there just bite me. Oh, he bit me. Oh, I'm dead. Man, other people like me and others are saying, man, throw the shirt over the snake, stomp him out, and we out of there. We ain't worried about none of that stuff. We don't live in a place where we experience trauma every day. Next video.
Okay. Do you want to go first, or you gonna let me?
Nope, you go first.
The first thing I would say is the second gentleman completely missed the point. We are Physically bigger than snakes, yes, but are we physically bigger than institutions? No, we're not physically bigger than the United States government. No,
You saw he had that flag behind him, right? And I'm like, I was like, maybe he's the coon that Dr. Umar was talking about.
ooh, mercy. Wow, yes. I mean, as individuals, no, we're not. And we do have what I'm going to now call citizen responsibility that you said before. If we get together, we can do some things, and unify, we can do some things, absolutely. But in this strict application here, he totally missed the point. He completely missed the point.
He's why he was on a boat and he wasn't.
Oh, mercy. That he missed that point by like several long shots. It's no, he is missing the point absolutely. Because if
And the
I'm
fact
not
that
worried about a snake, I'm worried about parking my vehicle next to a large truck with a sliding door next to it. They don't have to do anything to me, but knowing that they are there and that they could, and that if they do, they are not punished for it. That is a burden. That is absolutely a burden.
I'm gonna say for people like him, they haven't experienced anything. Um, and what I mean about that is it just so happened, and I'm happy for them. Because my quick fast note, I was never taught racism because my family is a rainbow coalition of races, from Vietnamese to Brazilian and Black, African, and all the above.
Mhm.
So, um, my mom never really just taught me that. But it wasn't until in my late 20s, me working for a company and having and being technical support for someone and having an older white couple not know that they didn't hang up the phone and call me a nigga.
Mm, mhm, mhm,
And I'm like,
mhm, mhm.
I had to get off the phone. I had to talk to my supervisor. Hey, it it touched a part of me that I didn't think was in there because I had never experienced that. True enough, yes, I seen TV and I've seen the, slavery movies and all that stuff. But again, me personally, I haven't been in that situation. I don't live in that universe. At least I thought I did,
Hey,
because the world it wasn't set up like that.
mhm.
And so him talking about people like the dude that was giving a great example metaphorically, um, yeah, he is just uh, on a positive note. He just hasn't experienced anything that has caused him to question what this country is. And I don't want people to experience it, but don't like what you were saying earlier. Don't shoot me down because I've experienced that.
Exactly. You
I've
don't have to
tasted that
experience.
bitter taste in my mouth.
Don't deny that I have. Exactly.
Yes.
You haven't experienced it, but don't deny that I have. That's
All right.
mm,
Next video. So that basically was on a bullet point um of the two bullet points with the traumatic um generational
generational. Yes.
trauma thing.
Yes.
So and I
What exactly do
actually
you think we wouldn't agree with? I'm just curious right now.
I was being funny. I was being funny. I was gonna be mad if you didn't see that second part as crazy. I was like, Dr. Whitney, you need to go back to the University of Life. I'm taking your PhD away from you. Yeah, Mm-mm.
Okay. I got you. I got
Yep, yep, yeah. We're gonna have to renege that PhD. Take that away from you. You're not a doctor anymore. Your communication skills have gone down the drain. No. Um,
Oh man.
this I asked a question earlier about did the reprogramming work. Did you answer that question?
I wasn't sure because I wanted to ask you reprogramming of whom? What did you mean by that?
So, with the question of are we ever going to be safe as black men? The reprogramming of going back to the beating of like Kunta and whatnot, changing his name. Like, he stood for a minute, but then they broke him. And I think that's what's happened, the reprogramming of as soon as they get something up, we're going to tear it down. Because if we don't get ahead of it, they going to feel like they can do anything they want to do. But that is not the case. We just want to live in peace. We want to just be able to do everything that this country said is built upon.
Right.
So, and just my answer to that, I do think the reprogramming worked because we are scared shitless to step against the mighty systematic what you call it, whatever the thing is,
structure, establishment,
yes.
Yes. I also think that it's worked. And I was going to say that it works for some people, and some people it hasn't worked. Some people, I don't want to say this as an incitement to anybody to change what I'm about to say, but some people haven't broken. Some people are still ardent enough in our belief as a person that we continue the fight for equality. Some people haven't broken in that way. Other people have broken, and the reprogramming has worked in so much that if you don't have any value in your culture where you are, then you have to get your culture from material things, which means you pay $500, $600, $700 for a pair of shoes with a designer label all over it. And when the celebrities buy things from that same designer label, you don't even know because it's a little bitty tag in the corner, because they're not the ones who've attached their value to the possession of things like people have if they have nothing else to attach their value to. For them, I do believe that it has worked. Not every Black person who buys a designer label is deceived and deluded. I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm saying as a general,
some people just like what they like, and I get it.
Exactly. And as a general cultural premise, the reasons that designers understand we're going to have a premier line for the celebrities. It'll cost $2,000-$3,000, however much it is, but a little bitty tag in the corner, a little bitty tag on the side. Nobody really knows, especially when you go to these red carpet things. The first thing they ask you is, who are you wearing? There's no
who
tag.
you wearing today?
Exactly, because there's no
I'm wearing
tag.
Dolce Gabbana. I'm trying to figure out what he at on your body, but okay.
Exactly. But then the line that they create for, I've forgotten the term they gave it, but it wasn't urban. It wasn't, they create two lines, basically.
Yeah.
One line
for
for
the broke
their
people.
celebrities.
The broke people that spend $500 instead of $2,000.
Exactly. And that is demonstrative of some brokenness.
Right.
Because their value is attached to having those things. And once those things become available to them, whatever they cost is just what they'll pay. $5,000 for shoes, or $500 for shoes, $600 for this, $700 for that. They work hard. They get their hands on that money. That's why billions of dollars circulate through Black communities, but they don't circulate within that community. They're buying all of these things and getting the money out of their community in this way because they're attaching their value to designer things, and that thing becomes where they spend their money for their value perceived as they do it. That is a part of brokenness, and the reprogramming has worked in that way as one example.
Okay. All right. Next video here.
And you have coons.
Okay.
The Negro is completely ignorant. He would respond to what you just suggested. Take a Negro who think white people are everything. White women are beautiful. White people are more intelligent. Black people are lazy. He's a Negro. He's been miseducated. You educate him, you can bring him back into the revolution, right?
Right.
He was just a Negro. He didn't know.
Right.
But then you got the coon. The coon knows that the white man ain't better. The coon knows that Black people are the original people. But
all right, play that. Oh.
Yes, I do. But while he stopped right there, that's an excellent point for me to interject this thought right here. It isn't always the point that the white people, that the coon, as he's titled, that person, that they know that the white people are better, and they know that all of those types of things, and then they still perpetuate the ideology of it. It's not just that part of it. It's that sometimes when they allow themselves to be the puppets of those who would mean their destruction. When
Yeah,
black,
that's the part of the reprogramming and upholding the created system.
yes, when black
That
people say racist things, it's awful because
yeah,
the populace believes, oh, that can't possibly be racist. The black person said it. So then you have black people in HR towing racist company lines, and then the company gets out in front and says we have a diverse policy and that we're employing inclusion strategies and all of these types of things. They have that look on the outside that what they're doing is correct, but internally, ask those black employees what the culture of that company really is, especially someone who's been there long enough to tell you from start to finish. And in the same way, sexism is an issue because a woman can say sexist things just like a man can, but because it's coming out of her mouth, it's suddenly not sexist. You know, when the woman is accusing other women of being streetwalkers because of how she may be dressed,
right.
that's as sexist and demeaning as it would be if any man said it. So the becoming the tool of the implement, becoming the tool of implementation for the issue
Okay.
is a part of the reprogramming that
Okay.
has unfortunately worked for many.
All right. So, where is a safe place for black men, and how do we get there? And my bullet point was black women.
I
And
absolutely love that. I love that.
because, and we definitely have a video for that as well. Um, is it's just crazy to me that we don't understand that, and why we're having this social media battle between black men are better than black women. They, again, at the very beginning, at the setup, they took that away from us. They separated us on purpose because they saw the bond between that partnership and how strong that bond was. And they've been going through years of trying to separate that, and they've been doing a great job for it.
Freaking man from the continent.
Right.
You're going to have to understand that the way in which you talk to black men in America will not be tolerated over there.
Why the
It
fuck
is
is
a
it tolerated? It's not
here.
tolerated here. That's what we're trying to tell them.
Well, over here, I want to say this to us, though. Because we try to act like the way sisters treat us doesn't have a history that we are not at least partly responsible for. Let's be honest. The black woman has had to hold down the black house by herself, although imperfectly. She's had to do it by herself since the mass incarceration of black males began in the 1970s. You understand me? Most of our children are raised by a single mother right now. And it has been that way for about 50 years. So when a sister says, I don't need a man, because she couldn't find one strong enough to hold her down. Or when you meet a woman and you say, sister, I'm strong enough to be your man. You ain't got to work, or you ain't got to pay the bills or whatever. Pull back. I got you. And she can't do it because all the other men before you who disappointed her. So what I'm saying is, black men, we got to be patient with our women because we created that personality. We created that. And then we want to act like we didn't play a role.
We have to be held accountable for their poor selection.
No, you have to be held accountable. No, you have to be held accountable because they have a poor selection. See, what you're saying, you're selecting a poor mate. And what I'm saying is they don't have much to select one, so of course she's going to end up with a poor mate. And why is she going to end up with a poor mate? Because we as black men are not raising black boys to be the men that our women need.
Oh, crap. Sorry.
I panicked. I was like, oh no,
I wanted to and like, oh crap.
was
Tell
all
us to
thinking.
be on the phone too when we get out. Pretty much, I wanted to speak on like dang, what I'm gonna say because I got to be fast. Do you just think about how get out of here, Jesus? I'm so sorry. I'm trying to hurry up. Trying to hurry up.
Okay.
Okay. So, his end note, like I just stated, by Black women being our safe space,
Mm-hmm.
we have allowed the system to create that narrative for us to be against Black women
Mm-hmm.
and their struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to you again, saying that this is what I am going through. Why can't you understand that? But as a man, because I am using a white supremacy um dialect, a rule book, a blueprint on how to raise a family or how to be a man in a family, I'm sitting up here thinking that my woman should know her place and that I am the leader and I should know better. And so now I am undermining anything that you're thinking, any feelings that you have, and making you feel less as whole. And then not only that, am I not using you? And so you spoke about something that I'm not going to get into, but you was telling me about how um church have
Mm-hmm.
the what you call this, the functions for women,
Yes.
how to be a wife, but you never see the functions for men on how to be a husband to
Mm-hmm.
a wife. That they are our safe space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They are what's going, they're all back. And I'm not even going to say backbone to a degree, but they are our protectors as well as we are theirs.
Absolutely. I
And
absolutely.
we're not upholding ourselves to the point to where we are raising boys to understand that. We're
That's
just
right.
pretty much sending them out there and saying, oh, have about 4 or 5 girlfriends, go out there and have fun, and it's okay. To the point that even women have gotten this idea of it's okay that my son is out there doing that.
Oh, they
Because
encourage it. They
yes,
encourage it.
you're not bringing the daughter. I mean, you're not bringing the child home if she gets pregnant. So because 9 times out of 10, the child is with the daughter.
That's
I mean,
yeah.
with the woman and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and say your part while I'm switching cameras here.
Okay. For his statement that the dichotomy between the relationships that men and women have. First of all, men and women are not natural enemies. They are perfect complements. They are supposed to work in harmony and supposed to work in unison with each other. And without that family dynamic is going to be broken, which, like you said, they were successful in doing before. When a man and a woman are able to be each other's perfect complement, the strength that they have as individuals and the potential they have as a unit is impenetrable. And he has that safe space in her heart, particularly when she knows that his emotional expression does not make him weak. When she does not tell him that he expresses emotion, it is a show of weakness. Under the constant burden that he bears in this society, she needs to be that place where he can come in and shut everything else out. That he can shut out even the things that he thinks about what manhood is and not supposed to be. He can even put down that and say to her, today I had a bad day because, and fill in the blank. She needs to understand the power that she has in his life when she can receive his emotion and not discredit him for having those emotions, for needing to express those emotions, and to be his safe space that will fortify him to succeed when all the odds are stacked against him. That's what her role is. That is what she has the power to do for him as an arbiter of safety for him. Absolutely. Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, perfect.
I
Yeah.
was sitting up here talking and I didn't unmute the mic. But
Okay. I'm sorry.
it was it was cool because at the end of that interview, he was going back and forth with one of the hosts about how important black women is.
Mm-hmm.
Important our responsibility is, and that we've been short on keeping it. We're not keeping it, we're doing it when it comes to our black boys in the community and stuff. And they just they were still battling with the fact that, oh, so you basically, what you're trying to say, I should be okay with dating someone with bad choice habits. Now they got several kids and all this, and he kept explaining, but you got to understand those bad choices were created by us.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not taking responsibility of being great men because we're not. And I had there was one more video, actually it was two, but I forgot that since I changed to my phone, they're not on here, but that's cool. Just changing the narrative to end the show, that the narrative is, at some point as men, we have to stand up.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say stand up, that meaning coming together and stop having the mindset of being single. And what I mean about that, yes, you have to be a single individual. You have to
Yes,
know how to take care of yourself. You have to know how to bathe yourself, clean yourself. You need to know how to cook. Even though I know you're looking for a traditional wife, a lot of these men, to where a slave. That's not what this is about. Um,
exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
you have to see that we are at war. And what I mean about at war is our dignity, our community is at war, because he made a perfect point about how this dude, he was combating with this dude, because my guy was like, constantly, you're talking about yourself. You're not talking about the community. I'm speaking on the community of black men. Why aren't we out here calling and checking on some of these boys that don't have that proper male figure in the house?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to always be in danger due to this, because they have us separated. They've used the separation that they've caused us to believe in to just milk us, and with the material things, with the idea that if I got six figures, that's all I need to be great. And it's so
Exactly.
far away from true.
Absolutely. 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 I fully agree with what you're saying. And in a nod to accountability, yes, there are men who have been responsible for the poor choices that women had. There are also women who teach young girls that the highest thing that she can attain is being married, and that her value is attached to being married. So if her value is attached to her being married and his value is attached to money and success in that way, they're always on different pages about the priority of a relationship.
And he stated that because he was trying to explain to the dude, he said, because we're talking about men, we're talking about boys. I also do the same thing with women. So I'm not saying that they don't make bad choices. But again, it wouldn't be a Ray Ray, a Pookie, if we didn't sit up here and create a Ray Ray and a Pookie.
Understood. Absolutely, I received that. Absolutely, I understand. And as I was using that as the foundation and then leaping forward, the premise that they have constructed this archetype and then used it against the people about whom the archetype was constructed, You cannot say that that is accidental. It's too prescribed to have been happenstance.
Yeah.
And when he said in the video that since the 70s, many homes have been headed by single women, you're right that there should be a presence of young men that will reach out to the younger boys and show them the way. As we
What?
do that, we need to also make sure that those young boys understand what the respect of authority is in ways that are healthy, because
Right. Right.
I've seen young boys that will look at a grown man, same complexion, same ethnicity, young boys who will look at a grown man and say, "I don't have to listen to you because you're not my father." And when I say it the way that I'm saying it, of course, it comes with a little bit of a sugar coating for presence.
I don't know what happened.
I can still hear
Well,
you, but you're
while she's circling, um, I want to end with
okay.
the changing the narrative, a solution.
Yes.
We can beyond doubt say the tale of a black male in African resembles a in Africa nature. We can even go as further to say, but this was not this would not be our African descent inheritance if we don't change our intellectual outlook at this continuance genocide of black men. Um, we also need to taking the responsibility of our shortcomings as men when it comes to our true safe place, our
Mhm.
black women. We need to rebuild, reinvest, and implement emotional love into our community, not just to boys, but to grown men as well. Those are my changing the
Agreed.
narrative.
Agreed. And in that light, I want to reiterate one of the things that I said earlier. While we're talking about building strong men, the women in their lives need to recognize that an emotional expression does not equate to weakness. He
Right,
needs to be able to have that safe space with her so that he can share and that he can grow and they can unite and have that strength in family that has been eviscerated by this infrastructure that you're talking about.
right. So, guys, I totally appreciate it. Didn't mean for this to be long, but it just had a lot of stuff that I wanted to go over.
Absolutely.
But what you got coming up next, Dr. Whitney?
I am working on my YouTube channel and having
Okay,
content placed there,
okay,
and my weekly segment on Facebook, Sensible Sundays. It's a snapshot or snippet of conventional wisdom that will hopefully enable people in their making of better choices to secure the connections that they want instead of just the company that they find.
okay, cool. For us, I we do have a show coming up, guys. If you're not watching the mail room messages, um, from him with Tashawn and friends, I'm a part of that group. That she has her podcast live where you can be an audience on her YouTube page. On hold on, can you hear me?
Yes, I can still hear
Okay,
you.
all right, bet. Whereas you can be in the audience and whatnot and participate with our I'm not sure exactly what the title is going to be this Saturday. I don't have anything scheduled for next Monday. I want to sit down. I got to get up some information and whatnot for the next couple of titles. I was kind of behind with my sickness, and so I do appreciate you guys being patient, and for those that watch this live or watch this replayed or listen to this on the what you call it podcast platforms. Totally appreciate you guys, and I totally appreciate you coming and stopping by, Dr. Whitney, and with your communication uh, specialization. You scared me for a moment. You scared me for a moment. I thought I was going to have to talk to the university board and take your PhD away from you if you were not going to tell that man about himself. So, on that note, guys, I say toodaloo, and you all have a great night.
Good night. Lovely to be here. I'll see you next time.
All right.